Your wedding budget was $5,000. Your sisters reached $90,000. Mom declared you simply aren't as important to the family. What if the person who should love you most, your own mother, looked you straight in the eye and casually erased your child from your wedding? And what if that calculated cruelty pushed you to a breaking point that led to the most unexpected, satisfying act of rebellion? Because that's exactly what happened when I canceled my wedding, eloped to Italy, and watched my entire world and my phone absolutely explode. It all started with a simple brunch. I can still hear my mom's voice from that day, not yelling, not even crying, just that flat, detached announcement she made at my sister's fancy shower. It was like she was reading a weather report. Your wedding budget is $5,000. Your sister's was $90,000. She said it with a smile, beaming at my sister, Stephanie, like she'd just handed her a trophy. And then the kicker, Linda, you're just not as important to the family. My stomach dropped, but she wasn't done. She looked right past me, straight at my daughter, Mia, like my sweet kid was a chair someone forgot to put away. She tapped her mimosa glass with a spoon and added, "Also, Mia won't be in the formal photos. We're keeping it traditional." That's when my hands started shaking. Not from anger, not yet. It was that sick, tight feeling you get when something you've been desperately pretending not to see is finally, brutally said out loud. Mia was 9. Quiet, polite, the kind of kid who says, "Excuse me," when the dog bumps her knee. She was wearing a little cardigan I'd bought on sale, clutching a tiny gift bag she'd made for her Aunt Stephanie, hair clips she'd picked out herself because, in her words, Aunt Stephanie likes sparkly things. She just stared at my mom, her face blank, like she didn't understand the language. Then she leaned in close to me, her voice a tiny whisper. "Mom, did I do something wrong?" I swallowed so hard it hurt. "No," I said, too fast, too loud. "No, baby, you didn't." Stephanie didn't even flinch. She just kept scrolling through wedding photos on her phone, showing my mom a centerpiece that looked like it cost more than my monthly car payment. My mom, meanwhile, kept going. "We're not doing another big wedding," she declared, like she was explaining a reasonable household rule. "It's not necessary. You're older. You already have a child. And honestly, you're stable. You don't need the help." Stable, like I was a cabinet she could lean on whenever she wanted, and then slam shut when I wasn't convenient. Across the table, my aunt chuckled. Someone else said, "Well, at least Linda's practical." Nobody, not one person, said, "What is wrong with you?" Nobody looked at my daughter and said, "Of course you're in the photos." I did the thing I always did. I went still. I smiled, a fake, brittle thing, like my face belonged to someone else. I rubbed Mia's back with my thumb and told myself not to ruin the brunch, because in my family, the person who reacts is always the problem. So I didn't react. Not there. I waited. I'm Linda. I was 36 then. I lived outside Columbus, Ohio, in a 2-bedroom townhome with a tiny kitchen and a laundry closet that screamed every time it spun. I was a hairdresser. Not the glamorous kind you see on TV, but the real kind. The kind where you stand on your feet for 10 hours, breathe in hairspray, and smile through a client's divorce confession while trying to get foils just right. And I was good at it. I had a steady book, regulars who tipped me in cash and brought me muffins at Christmas. I'd been a single mom for years. Mia's dad had been in and out like a bad Wi-Fi signal. I'd finally stopped pretending I could build a stable home out of someone else's excuses. 2 years before that brutal brunch, I met Ethan. He was calm, quiet, a teacher. The kind of man who doesn't fill silence with noise because he isn't afraid of it. He didn't come in and try to save me. He just showed up, over and over. He picked me up from after-school care when my last client ran late. He sat on the floor and helped her build puzzles without checking his phone every 30 seconds. He let her talk about her drawings like they were museum exhibits. When he proposed, Mia cried first. She hugged him, her voice muffled. "Does this mean you're really staying?" And he said, "Yes, I'm really staying." I actually thought that would soften my family. I genuinely believed a ring and a good man and a kid who just wanted to belong would finally make my mother treat me like I mattered. I should have known better, because the pattern was older than my engagement. The pattern was me paying and smiling and swallowing. It started small, the way it always does. When Stephanie got engaged 5 years earlier, my mom called me like it was an emergency. "Linda, I need you," she'd said. "You're the only one who can handle the bridal party." Handle, meaning do everyone's hair for free. Stephanie wanted a luxury wedding, ballroom, live band, ice sculpture, the works. $90,000 went into that wedding, mostly for my parents. And they didn't have $90,000 lying around. Not really. So where did it come from? Loans, credit, temporary borrowing. And for me, at the time my mom was struggling with bills. My dad's truck needed repairs. The roof might leak. My brother could really use help with daycare for the month. So I sent money. Not huge amounts at first. 200 here, 300 there. Then my mom started saying things like, "Just until we get through this month." Then, "You're so good with money." Then, "You're the only one we can count on." I became the family's quiet little emergency fund. And they got comfortable with it. It wasn't just cash. It was my labor. Every holiday, every event, every special occasion, my mom expected me to show up early with my kid and do hair in the upstairs bathroom like I was hired staff who happened to share DNA. Stephanie's blowout, her bridesmaid's curls, my mom's, just a few touch-ups, even my aunt's hair because you're already doing everyone else. I once did 12 heads in one morning. 12. By the time Stephanie's wedding started, my arms were shaking, and my stomach was empty because I'd been too busy to eat. At the reception, my mom hugged me and whispered, "See? You're so useful. Useful. Not loved. Not appreciated. Useful." I laughed then like it was a joke. But it wasn't. When Stephanie got her house, my parents helped with the down payment. My mom called me that same week. "We're short," she said. "Just a little short. Can you spot us?" I spotted them. When my dad wanted to redo the basement, my mom asked me to put the contractor deposit on my credit card just for the points. I did. When Mia had asthma flare-ups and I was juggling inhalers and copays, my mom still asked me to cover my brother's tires because he has a family. As if I didn't. And through all of it, they treated Mia like an add-on. A footnote. They never said grandbaby the way they said it about Stephanie's kids. They called her Linda's little one. They forgot her birthday twice. Once, my mom gave her a used coloring book at Christmas, pages already scribbled on, and told her, "You can share with the other kids." Mia, bless her heart, said, "Thank you anyway." That's the kind of kid she was. She didn't complain. She didn't pout. She just tried harder. She drew pictures for my parents, big, happy houses with everybody holding hands. She wrote Grandma in careful bubble letters. She saved her allowance to buy my mom a candle because she heard my mom say she loved vanilla. And every single time she tried, my mom acted like she was watching a stranger's child perform at a school play she didn't want to attend. I kept telling myself they'll come around. I kept showing up because that's what I was trained to do. If I was good enough, helpful enough, quiet enough, they'd finally treat me like I belonged. So when Ethan proposed, I thought, okay, now we're legitimate. Now we're safe. We planned a small wedding. Not courthouse small, just normal. A garden venue. 50 people, a simple dress. Our budget was about $18,000 total, Ethan and I together. We weren't asking my parents to fund it. We weren't asking for anything dramatic. We just wanted my mom to stop acting like my life was a consolation prize. I told her we'd cover most of it ourselves. I even asked if she wanted to contribute in any way, just because I knew she would insist on helping if she was given the opportunity to feel in control. That brunch was her answer. Not just the money, the ranking. It was the way she made it public, the way she involved my child like it was nothing. And the part that still makes my throat tighten is how calmly she said it, like she'd rehearsed it, like she'd been waiting for the moment to finally put me in my place. After the brunch, I walked Mia into the car. She was quiet. Her eyes stayed on the pavement. Stephanie's kids ran past us with sugar on their faces, shrieking about cake tasting. My mom called out behind me, "Linda, don't be dramatic!" I didn't turn around. In the car, Mia buckled herself in and stared at her lap. Then she said softly, "If I'm not in pictures, does that mean I'm not really family?" I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. I wanted to scream, "Of course you are." But the truth is, in my mother's version of family, Mia never was. Not fully. Not the way Stephanie's kids were. Not the way blood was. I took a slow, deliberate breath. "You're my family," I said. "That's the only one that matters." She nodded like she was trying to accept it. But kids don't just accept that. They feel it. They carry it. And I felt something shift inside me right there in the parking lot. Like a door closing, not slammed, just shut. That night, Ethan came over after work and found me at the kitchen table, my laptop open, staring at the venue contract. Mia was on the living room floor drawing. She drew a little girl in a dress with a flower crown, but the girl was standing alone. Ethan looked at my face and didn't ask if I was okay. He asked, "What did she say?" I told him everything. I watched his jaw tighten in that quiet way it did when he was angry but controlled. He sat down across from me. "Linda," he said, "we don't have to do this their way." I laughed once, sharp and bitter. "It's not about the money," I said. "It's the statement." He nodded. Then he said the simplest thing like it was obvious. "Then we don't reward it." I stared at the venue website. My deposit was $3,200. Non-refundable. A chunk of money for me. Not life-ending, but enough to sting. I thought about my mom smiling over that mimosa glass. I thought about Mia asking if she was family. I thought about how many times I'd paid to keep the peace. And something in me finally got tired. Not dramatic tired. Bone tired. I clicked cancel booking. The screen asked, "Are you sure?" I didn't hesitate. Yes. Then I opened the florist email. Cancelled. The rental company. Cancelled. The bakery tasting appointment. Cancelled. One by one, I cut the strings. I didn't do it to punish them. I did it because I wasn't going to build the happiest day of our lives on top of my mother's humiliation. I wasn't going to pay for a party where my kid was treated like an embarrassing detail. Ethan watched me work. When I finished, I sat back in my chair and exhaled. My hands were still shaking, but now it was relief. Mia wandered in, still holding her drawing. "Mom," she said, "are we still getting married?" I looked at her. "Yes," I said, "but not like that." The next day, my mom called. I let it go to voicemail. Then she texted. Then she called again. By lunchtime, Stephanie was calling too. Then my brother. Then my aunt. I didn't answer. That evening, my mom finally sent a message that wasn't sugar-coated. "Mom. Linda, are you trying to embarrass us?" "Mom. Everyone knows you booked that venue." "Mom. You're going to make the family look bad." There it was. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "I'm sorry about what I said." Just don't embarrass us. I stared at the screen and felt that old, familiar urge to explain myself, to smooth it over, to make it easier for them to digest. Then I looked at Mia, sitting at the table, coloring quietly like she was trying to take up less space in her own home. And I typed one sentence. "Me. I'm not hosting a wedding where my daughter is treated like she doesn't belong." My mom didn't respond to that. She responded to something else. "Mom, don't use Mia as a weapon." A weapon? My child was a weapon, but my money was a tool? My labor was a resource? My silence was a gift? I didn't reply. I turned my phone face down and made dinner. 2 days later, Ethan came over with a small stack of papers. "Remember my Uncle Lorenzo?" he asked. I did. Sort of. Ethan had mentioned him in passing. An uncle who lived in Italy. Old money. Quiet. Not super involved with the family drama. I'd never met him. He'd sent Ethan a birthday card once with a handwritten note and crisp bills inside, like it was still 1998. Ethan slid the papers toward me. "It's not an invitation," he said. "It's an option." The papers were for a tiny civil ceremony in Italy. Simple legal. No ballroom, no seating chart, no family speeches. Just us. Ethan's uncle had a villa outside Florence. He'd offered to host. No strings, no spectacle. He said, "If you want to get married without a circus," Ethan told me, "you're welcome." I stared at the papers like they were a doorway. Then I looked at Mia. "Mia," I said carefully, "how would you feel about going to Italy?" Her eyes got wide. "Like Pizza Italy?" she asked. Ethan smiled for the first time in days. "Yes," he said, "like Pizza Italy." Mia blinked hard, like she was trying not to get her hopes up. "Would I be in the pictures?" she asked. I felt my throat tighten. "Yes," I said. "You'd be in every picture." She nodded once. Then she smiled, small and real. "Okay," she said, like that was all she needed. And honestly it was. We didn't announce it. We didn't threaten anyone. We didn't post cryptic quotes. We just moved. Ethan and I took time off. I booked flights with miles I'd been hoarding for years because I never used anything for myself. I told my salon I had a family emergency, which in a way I did. My mother thought the emergency was me overreacting. The real emergency was my daughter starting to believe she didn't belong. We packed light. Mia tucked her favorite sketchbook into her backpack along with a stuffed rabbit she still pretended she didn't need. The night before we left, my mom called again. I answered this time, not because I wanted to argue, but because I wanted to give her one last chance to be a mother. She didn't take it. "Have you calmed down?" she asked immediately. "I canceled the venue," I said. "Yes." There was a sharp inhale on the line. "You did what?" she snapped. "Linda, that was a family event." "It was my wedding." "It was a family event," she repeated, like my words didn't matter. "And you are not going to punish everyone because you're jealous of your sister." Jealous? As if I wanted $90,000. As if I wanted to be ranked. As if I wanted my child erased. "I'm not jealous," I said, my voice steady. "I'm done being treated like I'm less." My mom's voice went cold. "You're being selfish." I waited. She didn't apologize. She didn't mention Mia. So I said the boundary out loud, calm and simple. "I'm not funding a family that won't include my child." There was a pause. Then she laughed. One of those little, knowing laughs that meant she thought she still had power. "You'll come crawling back," she said. "You always do." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said, "No, I won't." And I hung up. Italy felt unreal at first. The airport signs in a language I half recognized. The air warmer than Ohio, the sunlight hitting old stone buildings like the whole world was made of honey. Mia pressed her face to every window, like she was afraid it would disappear if she blinked. Ethan's uncle Lorenzo met us with a driver and a small wave, like he wasn't the kind of man who had people driving him around. He was older, silver hair, calm eyes. He hugged Ethan, then turned to Mia and crouched down to her level, like she was the most important person there. "Hello, Mia," he said in careful English. "I am very happy you are here." Mia froze for a second. Then she smiled shy. "I'm happy too," she said. Lorenzo looked at me. "Linda," he said like he'd known me forever. "Welcome." Not useful. Not practical. Welcome. I didn't realize how much I needed that word until it landed. The villa was beautiful, but not in a flashy way. It felt lived in quiet. There were lemon trees, a stone terrace, a long wooden table under string lights like it was made for dinners that lasted hours. Mia ran her fingers over the old brick walls like she was touching history. That night, she sat at the table with Ethan and Lorenzo and ate pasta like she'd been doing it her whole life. And nobody made her feel like she was extra. We got married 3 days later. Small. No audience. Just us, a local officiant, and Lorenzo standing off to the side with his hands folded like he was witnessing something sacred. I wore a simple dress, not a bridal gown. just a white sundress with lace at the sleeves. Ethan wore a linen shirt. Mia wore a pale yellow dress and a flower crown that kept sliding sideways because she kept laughing. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, Mia raised her hand like she thought it was a classroom question. The officiant paused, startled. Mia giggled and said, "I just want to say I don't object." Everyone laughed, including me, and my eyes filled up. Anyway, after the ceremony, we took one photo. Just one. Me and Ethan in the middle. Mia between us, her hands in ours. No caption. No explanation. I posted it because I wasn't hiding. I just wasn't performing. Then I put my phone down. We went inside and ate cake with our fingers like kids. Lorenzo poured sparkling water for Mia like it was champagne. And for the first time in a long time, I felt quiet in my chest, like I wasn't bracing for someone to ruin it. The next morning, I picked up my phone. I had notifications stacked like a wall. I checked my call log. It looked fake. 127 missed calls in 6 hours. Texts, voicemails, more texts. My mom, Stephanie, my brother, my aunt, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. People who didn't come to Mia's birthday parties suddenly cared deeply about my wedding. Stephanie's first text was just, "Stephanie, what is this?" My mom's was longer. "Mom, Linda, answer your phone right now." "Mom, you are humiliating this family." "Mom, how could you do this without your mother present?" "Mom, after everything we've done for you. After everything we've done for you." I stared at that line until I started laughing because it was so upside down I couldn't even find the anger. Everything they'd done for me? Like what? Like letting me do hair for free? Like taking my money? Like telling my child she wasn't traditional enough to be photographed? I didn't respond. Not yet. I put my phone down again and went outside. The air smelled like citrus and morning. Mia was on the terrace drawing in her sketchbook. Ethan came up behind me and wrapped an arm around my waist. "They found it," he said softly. "Yeah," I said. "You okay?" I watched Mia draw. "She's okay," I said. "So I'm okay." By lunch, it got worse. People started commenting on the photo. Some hearts, some congratulations. Then, my mother's friends started showing up in the comments with shocked emojis, like my wedding was a scandal. I was scrolling, half numb, when a new comment popped up. A name I recognized because Ethan had told me stories. Lorenzo Biani. My breath caught. His comment was simple. "Beautiful ceremony at my villa. Welcome to the family." That was it. No drama. No subtweets. Just a quiet statement. "This happened and you belong." I swear, my whole body relaxed, like it had been waiting for someone with real power in the family to say it. Because here's the thing about families like mine. They don't respect boundaries unless someone higher on the invisible ladder enforces them. My mom had always acted like she was the top rung. Lorenzo just reminded everyone she wasn't. My phone rang again immediately. Then again. Then again. I didn't answer. I watched the comments. And then my mother replied, directly under Lorenzo's. My mother's reply was exactly who she was. Not loving, not heartbroken, but controlling, performative. A public attempt to yank me back into line. She wrote, "Please don't encourage this. Linda is confused and acting out. This was not a real wedding. We will handle this privately." I sat there, staring at the screen. This was not a real wedding. I looked over at Mia, who was humming to herself while she drew me in a dress, Ethan in a shirt, and the three of us holding hands under string lights. Real enough for her. Real enough for me. Ethan read it over my shoulder. He didn't swear. He didn't rant. He just said, "We're not doing this." Then he took my phone gently from my hand and set it down like he was putting away something sharp. "We're not giving her our day," he said. And we didn't. That evening, Lorenzo invited us to dinner at the long wooden table. He didn't mention the comments. He didn't ask for details. He just made room. There were candles, bread, a simple meal. Mia sat between Ethan and me like she belonged there because she did. Halfway through dinner, Lorenzo looked at me. I know your mother is loud, he said carefully. I blinked, surprised he'd address it at all. He continued, still calm. In families, there are often people who take, he said, and people who give. The takers become angry when giving stops. I swallowed. He set down his glass. In my home, he said, a child is never made to feel small. Never. Mia didn't hear. She was busy dipping bread into olive oil like it was her job. But I heard, and something inside me unclenched again, because I realized I'd been trying to earn basic decency from people who didn't even believe they owed it. The next day, I finally sent one message to my mother. One. No arguing. No defending. No paragraphs. Just the boundary, clean and clear. Me, I'm not discussing this. I'm married. Mia is my family. If you can't respect that, you won't be part of our lives or our finances anymore. Then I did the one financial move I should have done years ago. I opened my banking app. I turned off the recurring transfers. $300 every month to my parents for bills. $150 every month to my brother, just until he catches up. The salon discount I'd been applying to my mom and sister's appointments for free. Done. I didn't call to announce it. I didn't threaten. I didn't negotiate. I just clicked the buttons and watched the confirmation screens appear. Transfer canceled. Transfer canceled. Auto payment stopped. It felt strangely quiet, like sweeping a floor you didn't realize was covered in glass. The fallout hit exactly how you'd expect. My mom didn't respond with an apology. She responded with panic. She called Ethan. He didn't answer. She emailed me. She showed up in my DMs. She sent Stephanie like a messenger. Stephanie, Mom is crying. Stephanie, Dad is furious. Stephanie, you can't just cut everyone off because you got your feelings hurt. Stephanie, also, was that really Uncle Lorenzo? That last one made me laugh out loud because that was the core. Not my feelings. Not my daughter. Not my wedding. The core was, did you embarrass us in front of someone who matters? I didn't reply. I posted nothing else. One photo, no caption. That was all they got. When we came home, the cold hit me like a memory. Ohio gray skies, slushy parking lots, the familiar weight of routine. But our home felt different. Not bigger, not richer, just ours. Mia taped a postcard from Italy on the fridge. She drew a little lemon tree next to it and wrote, our wedding house. One evening, a week after we returned, there was a knock at my door. I opened it and saw my cousin Rachel, the one who always smirked at family gatherings like everything was a competition. She stood there holding a paper bag. I brought you cannoli, she said awkwardly, from that Italian bakery in town. I blinked. What's this? I asked. She shifted her weight. I saw the comment, she admitted, and I just wanted to say, good for you. I didn't invite her in right away. I didn't melt. I just listened. Rachel exhaled. My mom's been talking, she said. Apparently your mom's telling everyone you got brainwashed by Ethan's family. Like you got tricked into leaving. I stared at her. And what do you think? I asked. Rachel looked past me into the living room where Mia was on the floor building a little paper village with Ethan. Mia laughed at something Ethan said. Rachel's face softened. I think your kid looks happy, she said quietly. And I think that's the whole point. She handed me the bag. Then she said something I didn't expect. They've been using you, she said, almost like she was saying it to herself. Everyone knows it. You were just the only one who kept pretending it was normal. My throat tightened. Rachel gave a small nod. Then she walked away. It wasn't a dramatic reconciliation. It was just a crack in the family narrative. And sometimes that's more than enough. So, tell me, have you ever had a moment like this, where you finally just broke free from a family dynamic that was suffocating you? What would you have done in my place? I really want to hear your stories.